Hope you're having a very good day. Hey guys, it's time to paint. Today we're going to be painting a fairy. Shh. I think I hear one. Hi guys, and welcome to Letitia Houston Art, where I'm spreading a little light to the world through the canvas. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to paint a fairy in watercolour. So this is going to be part one of a two-step video. In today's video, I'm just going to show you how to do the watercolour component, and you'll find a link in the description below for the printout. This fairy has been created from my imagination, and I'm going to show you how to do that too in the next video. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when the next videos are popping up. Glad to see you here, and let me know how you go. I'd love to hear about your creations. Bye for now. Guys, and we're back at it, so it's fairy time. So today I'm working with the A4 300 gram SN piece of watercolor paper. I've traced my drawing of the fairy first on an A4 piece of just standard paper and transferred it onto tracing paper. So now I'm just sketching over the back, which is what you do if you want it to appear right side up when you trace it onto your watercolor paper. I'm using a HP pencil to do it, because when you flip it over, if you use a 2B or a really heavy graphite lead, it's hard to see the outline. So with my brushes, I'm using a number 2 round brush, and mostly a small detailed brush, and a round 14, which I'm really only going to use at the end. So you can see that I've used a multi-liner to outline, which is what I like to do. So you can do this, or you can not do it. You can just purely create your outline with watercolor if you want. But I like to illustrate and outline and see definition, so I'm using a multi-liner. It's a 0.05. So I'm just getting a wash down right now, really light. So this is a nature fairy, or an earth fairy, so I'm using earthy tones. So we've got burnt orange, we've got brown, we've got green, and we've got violet. So those are the colour tones, and it's a lot of water with just really light elements of each of those colours that I just spoke about. You'll notice I'm using a glass plate as well. Just helps you with your watercolors to keep everything nice and clean, and so you can just wipe it off at the end when you finish, rather than with a palette where sometimes the color can get stuck in there and then cause your colors to be murky. So that's just a picture frame I'm using for that one. And now we're working on the hair. So we're working on the hair now. So I'm using an orange, but this orange has a yellowy base to it. Again, it's by Micador paints. Oh, and by the way, if you want to follow me with this particular fairy, I've included it as a line drawing, and you can print it out in the description below. You just need some tracing paper to outline it, to transfer it to your watercolor paper. So again, that's in the description below. So I'm going to mix green in here. So I'm using less water, more paint for the hair, because I want the colors to be a little more energetic and vibrant. So I'm just mixing up the gradients of color, and I'm using sap green. So it's sap green and orange combined together, and I'm just playing back and forth and deciding with the different colour tones. So a lot of myths about fairies. Fairies are deemed to be a mythical creature, but are they? Fairies in the spiritual realm are known as an interdimensional being, and they reside between realms. They're beings of light, but they also have egos, so that means that they can sometimes play tricks. You've got light beings, so light fairies, fairies of the light, I guess, and you've got your dark fairies, which are known as being part of the elemental kingdom. They work with the earth. So whereas angels work in the spiritual realm, fairies work to protect and nurture the earth and those who want to participate in protecting and nurturing the earth. So if you're working in the garden a lot, if you're watering plants, if you're looking after animals, if you're radiating joy and love, you may even have some help from fairies or encounter them. So what do you think? Are they real or no? So for the skirt, our earth fairy is made up of leaves. So I'm using a sap green and I'm just varying the gradients of colour for it. So my outside leaves are going to have a little more of a darker tone, and the inside leaves I'm going to make a little bit lighter just to add some variation and some depth. So again, first layer. Get your first layer down, peeps. So just take your time and let the water flow. So here you can see I added a darker tone, which means basically that I had less water, more paint. We're using a wet on dry technique for this. If you want to experiment and you want to use water first and do a wet on wet, you can. It's just a little harder to control when you're working in a smaller area. And notice the brush that I'm using here is a smaller detailed watercolour brush, because I'm working in a smaller detailed area. Okay, so now that we've got our skirt out of the way, well, the foundation anyway, we're going to move on to the top of the sleeves, where I've just created a little leaf pattern on each shoulder, and I'm using a dark green. So each side, little leaf, boom, shoulders are in. Just so they stand out, and it's a nice contrast from the other greens and colours on the fairy. So I do move around a bit, so we're going to go to the shoe now. And with the shoe, I wanted it to be another colour green again, so I used our dark green with a little bit of blue, dark blue. So it kind of comes out like a jade green. And there you go. Alright, so in the middle for the top, I'm going to use a wet on wet technique. So we're just going to fill it in, flood it with a little bit of water, not too much, so it's a little bit tricky here. Probably shouldn't have done the details of the sleeves first, but here we go. So put your water down first, just be sure to try and fill in only the space where the top is, and we're going to use a sap green. We're going to drop in a little bit of violet, sort of blend them together nice and easy. So when you blend, you just sort of pull your brush in towards you. Leave some space at the bottom because we want to fill it up with that yellowy orange colour, just for contrast, and so that the top of your fairy can pop out a little bit. So you can differentiate between the bottom half and the top. There we go, we're looking good. Nature fairies taking shape. She's got a little belt. Okay, so we're going second round on the face now. So you can use the same color tones but just add less water so you can create shadows around the face. So a little too green on this. You can pull your color back by adding more water and just dabbing with a tissue. So I'm just working on the shadows around the face, around the eyes, the creases of the eyes, around the hairline. I kind of added a green, a deeper green around the eyes. But you'll see that as we go along. So just adding the shadows on the arm. And adding the next layer on the legs. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Let me know what you guys are creating right now. I'd love to hear. Alright, we're working on the finer details now. So we're working on the face, working on the lips. Kind of wanted the plum colour, so I'm just going to lay down the base as red. The eyes are going to be green. I'm just going to work the shadows around the nostrils, underneath the eyes. I think I said in the last part that I was doing the shadows around the eyes, but I was ahead of myself. So I'm using sap green, not too much water, just around the outline of the eye, just to give my fairy some depth. She's looking good now. Hope yours is coming along well too. Frog in my throat, sorry. Okay, we're looking good. Shadow underneath the chin. Around the nose, I'm just again using that small detailed brush. Smoothing it out a little bit. And then I'm going to use that burnt orange colour again to create beautiful rosy cheeks. Hardly any water. There we go. Little shadow for the neckline. Wow! A little more definition, giving our fairy some depth. Thought I'd go over the edges of the skirt with the dark sap green. Okay, we're nearly there with our fairy. Just filling in the finer details. I'm using my small detail brush for these little final pieces, final little touch-ups. So in the next tutorial I'm going to actually show you how to create this fairy from scratch, how to draw it from imagination. Draw the body positioning. But if you want to follow along for this tutorial and practice your watercolor technique, I've included the line drawing in the description below so you can print it out trace it onto your watercolour paper and test it out. So I'm going to finish with the splatter technique, which is where I'm going to use my round brush, size 14. So it's quite large, holds a little more water so that the droplets to drop on the page, which is why I'm using it. So you want to mix up a decent body of water with the colours that you want to splatter. So I'm going to use our orange, our green, our violet, just to add some energy to the piece to finish it off. And voila, our fairy will be done. So we're nearly there, bringing it home. So large brush, just splatter. Be careful with the direction you're splattering. It can get a little messy, but that's part of the fun. Sprinkle here, twinkle there, da 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 da. And there we have it. That's pretty much our fairy done. Woohoo! So this is part one, folks. Next one I'm going to show you how to draw it, so don't forget to stay tuned for that one and hit subscribe if you'd like to join me. This beautiful fairy is available on my website.